Picture this. The year is 1912. The Titanic, the largest ship afloat at the time, embarks on its maiden voyage. A marvel of engineering, the Titanic was a testament to mankind's technological prowess. It was a ship built with the grandeur of a palace and the strength of a fortress. Its creator, the esteemed White Star Line, was no stranger to shipbuilding. They were confident in their creation, boasting about the Titanic's superior safety measures. They declared it as the epitome of luxury and safety, and went as far as to label the Titanic as unsinkable. This claim was not entirely baseless. The Titanic was indeed a spectacle, equipped with state-of-the-art safety features for the time. It was built with a double-bottom hull and 16 watertight compartments designed to keep the ship afloat even if 4 of them were flooded. The Titanic's launch was an event met with great fanfare. The world watched in awe as this magnificent vessel set sail. There were high expectations from the Titanic, not just because of its size and luxury, but also because of the promise of its unsinkable nature. The passengers on board were a mix of the world's wealthiest, looking forward to an unforgettable journey, and immigrants, hopeful for a fresh start in America. The maiden voyage of the Titanic was not just a trip, it was a symbol of human achievement and progress. However, despite all the hype and the promise of an unsinkable journey, fate had a tragic twist in store. The Titanic, for all its grandeur and supposed invincibility, was not prepared for the peril that lay ahead in the icy waters of the Atlantic Ocean. The ship that was thought to be unsinkable was about to face a challenge that would test its mettle and ultimately lead to its downfall. But as we all know, the Titanic did not live up to its unsinkable reputation. The Titanic's tale is a chilling reminder of the perils of overconfidence and underestimation. And while the ship may have sunk, the lessons and stories it left behind continue to float on the surface of our collective memory. On the fateful night of April 14th, the Titanic collided with an iceberg. This collision wasn't a mere chance encounter, but a culmination of overlooked warnings and unfortunate circumstances. The Titanic, a symbol of human ingenuity and grandeur, was on its maiden voyage, sailing through the icy waters of the North Atlantic. The ship was moving at a high speed, despite receiving multiple iceberg warnings. Confidence in the ship's design and capabilities made the crew overly complacent, causing them to ignore the imminent danger. The moment the lookout spotted the iceberg, it was already too late. The ship, due to its enormous size and momentum, couldn't turn quickly enough to avoid the collision. The iceberg scraped along the ship's starboard side, puncturing the hull and letting in the icy seawater. In the immediate aftermath of the collision, the officers and crew were in disbelief. The Titanic, touted as unsinkable, was now in grave danger. The distress signals were sent out, the lifeboats were readied, but the ship was ill-prepared for such a catastrophe. There were far too few lifeboats for the number of souls on board, a haunting oversight that would lead to unthinkable loss. Despite the frantic efforts to save the ship, water flooded into the Titanic's compartments at an alarming rate. The ship's design, meant to contain flooding to certain areas, was no match for the damage inflicted by the iceberg. The bulkheads were not high enough to prevent water from spilling over into adjacent compartments, causing the ship to tilt forward and sink deeper into the freezing waters. The ship's orchestra played on, attempting to maintain a semblance of normalcy amid the chaos. The crew worked tirelessly, helping passengers into lifeboats, even as the ship's lights flickered and the tilt of the deck grew steeper. Despite the efforts, the Titanic was doomed to sink, leading to one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters in history. This ill-fated collision serves as a poignant reminder of the hubris of mankind, the respect we must have for nature's power, and the tragic cost of overlooking safety for the sake of grandeur. As the Titanic began to sink, panic and chaos ensued. In the early hours of April 15, 1912, the world's largest and most luxurious ship was succumbing to its fate. The iceberg had dealt a mortal blow, and now the ocean was claiming the Titanic. The initial reactions to the sinking were a mix of disbelief and terror. The Titanic was considered unsinkable, a marvel of modern engineering, but the reality was shockingly different. As the ship began to list and the first signs of distress flares lit the night sky, the enormity of the situation began to dawn on the passengers and crew alike. The scramble for survival was a scene of utter desperation. The Titanic, despite its grandeur and reputation, was ill-equipped for such a disaster. There were lifeboats, yes, but not nearly enough for the over 2,200 souls on board. The ship's band played on, attempting to provide some semblance of calm amid the mounting terror. Women and children were given priority to board the lifeboats, leaving many men behind, yet many lifeboats were not filled to capacity, a tragic oversight in the chaos. As the ship sank lower into the icy Atlantic, the situation grew more dire. The stern rose into the air, and then, with a horrifying finality, the ship broke in two. The bow section went down first, while the stern remained afloat for a few moments longer before it too surrendered to the sea. In the end, the frigid waters of the North Atlantic claimed the lives of over 1,500 people. Despite the efforts of nearby ships like the Carpathia, which rushed to the scene to rescue survivors, the loss of life was staggering. It was a tragedy that shook the world and marked a turning point in maritime safety. The sinking of the Titanic is a haunting tale of human hubris and the relentless power of nature. It reminds us of the importance of preparedness, of humility in the face of the unknown, and the preciousness of every life. In the end, over 1,500 lives were lost to the icy depths of the Atlantic. In the aftermath of the disaster, questions arose about why the Titanic sank so quickly and broke apart. Investigations unfolded, revealing the brittle fracture caused by the frigid water temperature, a phenomenon where material becomes susceptible to breaking due to a drastic drop in temperature. The Titanic's steel plates that made up the hull became brittle and snapped in the icy waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Further scrutiny revealed that the riveting methods used during the Titanic's construction were inadequate. Instead of traditional techniques involving heating and hammering, a hydraulic riveting machine was employed, which failed to fuse the plates securely together. These revelations brought about significant changes in ship construction and safety measures. The maritime industry took a hard look at their practices, focusing on the importance of material strength in cold conditions and reinforcing riveting techniques. The sinking of the Titanic serves as a tragic reminder of the consequences of cutting corners and not considering all possible scenarios. It underscores the importance of meticulous planning and preparation, especially when human lives are at stake.